Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 596 of the DrunkNerds podcast. I'm your host, I'm Tyler, and join me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables. What's up, buddy? Long time no talk.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know, right? Listeners, for those wondering why we are here so soon after the events of our last podcast, well, gaming news never sleeps apparently, as
No.
on a random Sunday of all days, we get news that Xbox is going to be or quite close to being a third-party publisher
Yeah.
with all that other shit. And right now I'm feeling confused. All sorts of crazy things are going on in my mind, all different questions. This, in my honest opinion, is probably the closest I have felt to being kind of like completely confused since, well, since like over 20 years ago when Sega went third
Yeah.
party.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's a weird time. Normally, Gables and I we get together record every Saturday night, and the podcast goes up Sunday. We did that. If you want to check out that, but like yeah, like Gable said, Sunday night, Tom Warren comes out to report about Indiana Jones. Then
hmm
John Clark from Xbox Air comes out with a report about Starfield, and then this morning Jeff Grubb drops another bombshell, and we'll get on to all this. But this is not a normal episode. This is an emergency podcast. This is just gonna be about
hmm
everything that's gone on in the last like 18 hours of
Yep.
like I was sitting there just playing Suicide Squad, which I don't want to talk about right now, and all of a sudden all these reports just start dropping, and yeah, so like I messaged Gables. It's Monday afternoon. It is 4:45 Central Time. It is so 2:45 Pacific Time. So if anything happens after this is why we didn't talk about it. So you have a general idea of timeline right now on Monday, February 5th. So yeah, it's just it's been a crazy couple days in the gaming world. And like you said, yeah, this is the weird time, Gable. So let's just jump into it and talk about it here. So
Yes.
some of the stuff that's been going on is like so we've been hearing the reports lately of like Hi-Fi Rush coming to Switch, and then it was like, oh, maybe
Yes.
it looks like it's coming to PlayStation. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago where um, I was like, oh, okay. No, if you hear my birds in the background, I apologize. It's crazy hour for them. But we I talked about it, and we kind of I think we were on the same boat where it's just like, okay, like these like no offense, like Hi-Fi Rush was my game of the year from last year. Um, and I was like these type of games like Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush and stuff like this, like coming to other platforms just makes sense. They're small games. They're probably not making their money back. They're probably not huge difference makers for people signing up for Game Pass. But it might help people keep Game Pass for a little bit longer. But it's not like people aren't signing. This isn't like Starfield. And you could say we want about Starfield, but
hmm
people signed up for Game Pass for Starfield, and like I was like, that's fine. And I said it at the time was if like the big ones start coming, then I feel like that's a real conversation. Well, let's get into it here, Gables.
hmm
Like we mentioned, Tom Warner from The Verge had a report last night. Indiana Jones is apparently considered to be releasing to the PS5 some months later. He has no idea. He didn't say like 3 months, 6 months, could be a year. He said as of right now, Bethesda tentatively is targeting a December 2024 launch for Xbox and PC. So, Gables, can we just agree that we're just going to bump that to 2025? That's
Yeah.
not coming out this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. That's like a February 2025 game. But at some point down the line, that's they'll sometime the next 3 maybe 6 months whatever it'll be coming to PlayStation.
Yep.
Then John Clark from Xbox Era said understands that currently Microsoft are planning a launch for Starfield on PS5 post the release of their already announced Shattered Space expansion for Xbox and PC, which is on target to arrive at some point later this year. We've also been informed that Microsoft have made an additional investment into PS5 dev kits to support ongoing development efforts, adding further fuel to the fire. And then this morning, actually, let's just talk about last night, Gables.
Okay.
When you started hearing this news, what
Yes.
was your overall like feelings? Were you like, I mean, obviously Xbox fans and just there's a lot of people just kind of losing their mind. Um, where were you on like a scale of like 10, like 10 being like holy like shit to like one like man whatever who cares?
Honestly, I was really shocked, man. I mean, I didn't believe it at first because I thought it was just some sort of crazy, crazy, like ramblings and stuff. But it wasn't until later on last night when things started circulating more, and then we were starting to see like re oh my gosh, the Xbox era puts out this article, and then Tom Warren goes through. He has his article and stuff upon like Indiana Jones, and then retweets the Xbox era thing, and then multiple people within the games industry are saying the same things like, yeah, I heard this, yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that and stuff. And that's when it went from like a 5 all the way up to like about a 10. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, you were at 10
They
last night. Okay. All right. All right.
I was
Okay.
at 10 last night, man. I It was enough to where I actually had thoughts of, hey, maybe I should have messaged you last night because this looks big enough to where we need to do an
Yeah.
emergency show. But I've stopped from doing that because I wanted to see if Microsoft would do a response to all of this like a day later, which we'll get into a little bit later on as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, I was definitely at that 9, 10 range
Okay.
because this is something huge for this is definitely something huge because that almost completely shifts like the gaming landscape back now because Microsoft goes from being like last place in terms of like console race in terms of like as a publisher right now for first party content all of a sudden now they are like the biggest third party publisher and
Yeah.
stuff because of all their acquisitions and all the other stuff and they just happen to make their own games and stuff. It's like yeah, I don't know how else you would think that would not be a huge news.
Yeah. No, I was like, okay, this is big. This is like, okay, like, and there was that talk of like, oh, it was forever there about is Starfield, is that exclusive or not and stuff like that. And we're like, I always kind of felt like, yeah, it's gonna be Xbox exclusive, which it turned out to be for now. And then Indiana Jones, that was a big discussion again, and like it was we probably should have known when after the developer direct, we were all asking ourselves like, is this coming to both consoles or just the one? And Microsoft and Xbox just never came out and officially said it was
Huh.
Xbox exclusive. And it was like, okay, that's weird. You think immediately you would come out and say like, hey, this is Xbox. I think eventually it did a few days later, but it was like, it's like, why you want to just like post that like right away. Um, so I was at like a 7 because I'm like, okay, I'm like looking, I'm like, all right, these are the studios they have like acquired, and like a lot of these are companies that have
Mm-hmm.
been making games for PlayStation for a long time. And I was like, all right, I mean, like it's definitely Starfield's pretty big. Like that's crazy. Like that was like the
That's not even a year old.
yeah. Well, and probably by the time it comes, it'll probably be a year or so old.
Right, right.
If it's assuming it does come, if they're saying assuming Shattered Space the second half of this year, and say maybe that comes a few months later, maybe that's like, early 2025, late 2024 to PlayStation type thing. Um, so I was like a 7 or 8 because I was like, all right, but like I'm like I've always talked about the holy trinity of Xbox games: Forza, Gears, Halo.
Yep.
Well, Jeff Grubb dropped the bombshell. Now I'm like a 12 out of 10 Gables. That Gears is being considered for PlayStation, according to Jeff Grubb. And Jeff Grubb has been very plugged in, especially on the Xbox side, for a long time now. Um, and that's kind of why I think we're like EA and Xbox is kind of where he's made his name as far as people know him because of the information he has of those two companies. And that's when I'm like, okay, you're right. I mean, like, this feels, I don't want to say on Sega levels where like they're done with consoles, but I'm like, this feels big. And we've seen,
Mm-hmm.
the internet is acting the way you think the internet would. Some way it's equally hilarious and concerning,
Yep.
but it got to the point like I was thinking, I messaged you this morning. I'm like, should we do an emergency podcast? I'm like, yeah, and you said, wait a few hours. I'm like, okay. And a big part of my like at that point I was like, all right, like to me I'm like Phil and Xbox need to say something, and that was gonna be like I'm glad we because about an hour or so ago Phil Spencer tweeted, we're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned. So Jeff Grubb also mentioned that they were going to talk to like it sounds like the team at Xbox, like the developers, all the other companies and out that work for them, and probably give them the future of what this means. And then
Yeah.
apparently at the end of this month, they were gonna like announce kind of like the idea, like maybe not the full thing, but like kind of come out and talk to the the public about it. Now it seems like all that's escalating, and probably
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like they're gonna probably still talk to the team this week, and then give us but now instead of the end of the month, now they're gonna do it next week. So I'm glad they came out and
Oh
said
wow.
something, but
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying. I was just saying. Just.
Okay. Um, I mean, you kind of brought it up
Yes.
before the show about like what does this mean for like your current Xbox and the next Xbox? Like I don't know. I just there's so many questions here that are like running through my mind of like and I feel like that's the next big thing of like if I mean we could probably tie in a lot of the questions we had into a few questions here like kind of work
Right.
them all out where if you're someone like I talked about when I talked about this a few weeks ago. I'm like if you're somebody like if they start bringing everything to PlayStation and Switch and everything like that like and you're someone like most gamers or most people only buy one console. Maybe they buy the Switch, then usually they buy a PlayStation or Xbox. Like
Yes.
we are not the majority. Where Gables and I have
No.
all three, but actually we have all three and a Series S,
Yes.
and so we have both Xboxes. Um, and like, what does that mean for if you're somebody that bought an Xbox over PlayStation, like that's big. Like you made a decision here. It's like fuck. I could have just had all of these on PlayStation. Maybe I just had to wait a little bit. Now, it's like cool. Now I missed out on all these PlayStation games and then I'm with this console that like with no exclusives essentially. Like I mean I don't know, Gables, how are you feeling about where do you think the future goes for Xbox?
The future, in my honest opinion, could be one of a couple of ways. They could put out a streaming console over the next over the next maybe 3 years, possibly 3 to 4 years. But also, what they could potentially see is like it's possible to say that maybe they are not going to be producing another console. Maybe they're just going to go like on like not just without a console, or some say maybe they're just going to do on PC and then have their other titles released on other platforms and have it that way. I mean, you can't really argue like say for or against either of those options right at this moment, because with this question in terms of whether or not what it does for like the consoles currently and then the future ones is like there's a lot of possibilities that could happen. I mean, who's to say that for like the consoles going on right now? I mean, I thought it was really odd come like the holiday season and stuff. The Xbox consoles were getting cut down in price like so quickly
Yeah,
in
you can
regards.
get an Xbox Series X for like 300. I was seeing the Series S
Yes,
for 200 to 150. Yeah.
yes, that was crazy to me thinking about that. But like all of a sudden we were hearing news reports in regards of like the console stuff or the physical stuff, being either completely phased out. It's been like a combination of a bunch of different things on top of way back when Microsoft made that deal with Nintendo and stuff, allowing like Ori, the Blind Forest, and some of their first party stuff to appear on their system.
Mm.
That is
Cuphead.
unprecedented. Cuphead as well.
Yeah.
Games like that I thought was unprecedented because they're allowing games that were initially their console only and PC, honestly, to come onto their systems. And now, hearing the blurbs about Hi-Fi Rush and then Sea of Thieves, like, okay, that's fine. I mean, that's kind of weird that you're going to also have those games on the other platforms. But then all of a sudden, hearing the reports of Starfield and then the Indiana Jones game and now potentially Gears, I mean, that's like completely almost saying to your audience right now for the future of your system is the future is we're going to put them on everything else. We don't need our system in order to play these games.
Yeah.
That's what it's telling me as a consumer, as well as your loyal fan base that's been with you since day one. And of course, I feel like currently where Xbox is heading right now, I mean, it all depends about what Microsoft is going to do with it. And from what it seems like to me, in my opinion, is like I think they're going to be completely getting out of the console race. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the problem is right now, especially with the lack of like communication from them, and this
yeah,
is just reports. And obviously, I think we all feel pretty like this isn't like fucking Reddit. These are like the top of the top people
yes,
reporting on this stuff. Like some of the most reliable sources out there for Xbox and gaming in general. But um, I so just in the last couple of weeks, we learned about how like Xbox sales were up, revenue was up double digit percentage,
yes,
year over year. Um, And I think it's the point now. Xbox is now the second most profitable, or second or third most profitable arm of Microsoft, which Microsoft is the
yes,
richest company in the history of mankind. Um, so it's like, why would you want to mess with that so much? But I can also like, I was thinking about like, I wonder, we've been talking about forever with the whole, like Activision deal and everything going on. Like,
right,
they make stuff exclusive. What do they do with Call of Duty and stuff? And I wonder, like, part of me wonders if like, we talk about like, okay, it'd be ridiculous to pull Call of Duty off of PlayStation because it just
Mm-hmm.
makes so much like the majority of the money from Call of Duty comes from the PlayStation side of things. They're the number one console. You know, obviously when I talk about this stuff, I don't include Nintendo. Like Nintendo is its own thing to me when it comes to
Right.
these two. PlayStation, Xbox are like, and one thing Nintendo does their own thing, and they are obviously extremely fine over there. But PlayStation's been number one, and they to the point that like they even like made a deal with Activision where they get a bigger cut of the percentage when people buy stuff on their console. They do
Right.
the same thing with Fortnite. Like, that's how powerful PlayStation is. Um, and I wonder if like they saw like either whether it's Microsoft or it's the Xbox side of things, and like that's a whole other like who made this, was this in a Phil Spencer call, or was this an Xbox or a Microsoft call? But like when they see how much money these games are making on the Activision
Yes.
side from PlayStation, it's like, well, we can do that over. Maybe we've been talking about a lot too of like, we've seen like PlayStation stuff like that, like want to double and triple dip in their games by like, now a TV show or movie's coming out, we're gonna put a remaster or remake out not too long before the movie or TV show come out, and then we're gonna get a sale there, and then after the show or movie comes out, we're gonna get another bump again later on. And I'm
Right.
like, maybe that's kind of what they're thinking is, hey, we're gonna put this on our console, we're gonna put it on PC, it's gonna get sales from there, people are gonna subscribe to Game Pass, play these games, and then a year later, maybe they'll buy them for $70 over there, or $50 or how much they're gonna cost, a year out. Um, but I, I I I don't know. Like I feel like as far as the future, like the current state of Xbox, I feel like it's gonna be okay. I don't feel like Game Pass is gonna be hugely impacted right now. Because I know a lot of people like, weirdly enough, I think a lot of people just talk shit about Game Pass, and I'm like, yeah, I love Game Pass. I've been run like been a huge supporter of Game Pass for like 6 years now. Like I love it. I've
Right.
had it. And I think for me it's a great deal. Obviously for everybody else it's different. I feel like yeah, say it's like $200 or so. I always find deals to get it way cheaper. But say you pay $200 a year for it, I overall at the end of the year will save a lot of money still based off of just like the big $70 games coming out. I'm getting on Game Pass, and then all the
Yeah.
indie games I was probably already gonna buy anyways on Game Pass, and then like the games I find and stuff like that on top of it. I feel like overall I feel like it's a great deal. I really do. I know it's a joke. It's the best deal in gaming, but I honestly kind of think it's true. Um, but yeah, like I there's definitely been a lot of stories of like like it's not growing at the like it was growing and it was profitable. Phil Spencer said a couple years ago, and we haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen him really report numbers much lately. Um, so
I
maybe
kind
that's
of
an issue.
wonder.
Yeah, like it seems like I wouldn't be shocked if it's going up, but maybe it's not going up at the rate they were hoping it would.
Right.
Um, and a lot of that, but I'm like, it sucks where like, and I'm jumping around here a lot, and I apologize, but there's so much like I think a lot of things tying each other. Of like, I think a big part of that is we talk about forever, Gables, about when those games hit, when Starfield hit. And people have
Mm-hmm.
their issues with Starfield. I have my issues with Starfield. Overall, I still think it's a great game, but um, like man, once the games start hitting and they talk about having a game every quarter, it's like, man, they're like, that will do it. And it's like we're finally
Yes.
on the precipice of like them realizing this thing they've been talking about for years. I'm like, we just wait. It's
Yes.
like I feel like it's almost like a Cubs fan where he's like, just wait till next year, man. When this hits, when this hits, when this hits,
Right.
and there we're finally like, if 2024 finally feels like that year.
Yes, it
You
does.
have like, and like the everything's lining up, and it looks like the next couple years, like there's a lot of shit they've announced previously in the last 3 or 4 years that feel like they're probably going to be down the pipeline here soon. And now they're going cross-platform, and it's like it just feels like that momentum that they've been building and like growing and just getting people excited. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just almost like in boom, instant, like it's gone.
That's why I did not understand it at first, why they would cut that type of momentum. I mean, it looked like they were finally on the right track to do what they have been trying to do now for like the past 10 years since the botch of the Xbox One launch.
Yeah,
They wanted to have enough games and stuff to release at least a game every month or at least every quarter in
yeah,
that regards to try to have it be more profitable than it could have been. This is part of the reason why I believe this has to do with Microsoft's hand, because from seeing all those initial deals like you were just touching upon like how Call of Duty brings in and stuff for like say with PlayStation, the exclusive deals of what Activision Blizzard games make on PlayStation, this and that. They saw the money. It's like, you know what, like Microsoft themselves were just thinking like, hey, we're the company that pretty much like went wild and stuff and did their own stuff and ended up becoming incredibly lucrative to the point now where it's like Xbox now is now making more than Windows, and that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Suppress Windows, which is just like a license to print money.
Exactly. And so now they're seeing the profit that they could be getting by going multi-platform with these game deals and stuff. And it's like this is too tempting. So this definitely I feel like was the catalyst, like not just with Game Pass, not just this stuff, but just seeing those type of money and stuff from what Activision Blizzard was doing on top of what they have been trying to do now the past 10 years, and that's progressively get digital. It kind of feels like to me that this wasn't like a well thought out decision. I thought this feels like to me kind of like a spur of the moment sort of thing that initially did manifest itself through dealings I think Microsoft did go through and see. Because if anything else, it doesn't make any sense. There's some things that just don't add up. Why would say Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, like that, and like
Sarah Bond.
Sarah Bond and stuff, and like all those other people, those figureheads and stuff for Xbox and stuff, why would they be touting so much in terms of like console exclusivity for their games, for their stuff, building up all this stuff only to go third party? It
Yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense unless you have the higher ups in Microsoft in general that made the final decision for them.
yeah. I won't say I think it's a spur of the moment thing. This is the richest company in the world. They're not the richest company in the world for no reason. So I wouldn't be shocked if
Exactly.
it's something that's been going on over the last couple of years, especially as like this whole Activision deal has been going on. And like Phil Spencer's been pretty open about, we want to go where the gamers are. We want to go to
Exactly.
you instead of trying to get you to come to us completely. And like Phil even talked about in that interview last year, kind of funny, on the XCast about how like they
The
lost the
Redfall
worst
stuff. Yeah.
generation. Yeah, they lost the worst generation to lose because that's when people built their digital library. And yeah,
Yep.
it's like I've talked about before. Like I have an iPhone, not because I'm an Apple guy. It's just I've had an iPhone for years. That was just the phone I bought a decade ago,
Yep.
and my stuff's on there. And it's just like I don't have to relearn everything. Every time I get a new phone, I log in, everything's right back. My pictures, everything is there.
Right.
And like that, and like I'm in their their grasp because of that. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of people, for they're Xbox fans that maybe, there's a lot of people freaking out about, oh, are they going to lose? We're going to lose our digital libraries. Are they going to go away forever? And um, I don't agree with that so much. And we can talk about that here in a second. But like, Phil's talked about a lot about like he like talking about like we want, like I said, go where you are, and like we just want you in the ecosystem, and that's something I've
Right.
mentioned over and over again. Is like they just want you in the ecosystem of Xbox, and like Game Pass is like kind of like their future. And I think that's what I mean, like when talking about the future of Game Pass and everything. Like I feel like it'd be kind of hard to like they flip the switch, and I don't think they can flip that switch back. To like where like we put everything in there day one. I almost wonder like kind of how PlayStation's done it. Where like when they did their whole new PS Plus thing, where it's just like
Yes.
we're gonna put a lot of older games in there, and it's like I wonder if like they would have been better off like doing that instead of just like going like kind of crazy. Like we talked about, like I mean we're wrestling fans. I remember when the
Yeah.
WWE Network came out, and it's like they had all the pay per views for $50 a piece, and
Yep.
the WWE Network came out. It's like, hey, everything's just to sign up for a network. All the pay per views are on there, $10. It's
Yep.
like in a way like it was great for us. It was great for
Yes.
consumers, but it was bad for the business. Like it ended up costing them. They were
Absolutely.
losing hundreds of millions of dollars a year because now everybody, like, yeah, more people are watching the pay per views, but not enough to override the $50 a month they were getting from a few million people a year on their pay per view buys. Um,
Yes. Absolutely.
and I wonder, like maybe, like I said, like Game Pass, maybe it's not growing as fast as they hoped. Maybe it's kind of like it's kind of hit the max. The only way it can grow anymore really is either by having just continuously great hits, which obviously they've struggled for a long time,
Yes.
and also and like it's month to month. It's not like you're signing up for a year, um, so it's people can bounce off, come back, stuff like that. But um, like the only way to really grow it anymore is by going on the Switch or going on the PlayStation, and I don't think
Yep.
that's gonna happen. Like we've seen Xbox allow Ubisoft Plus and Xbox or EA's fucking was it EA thing called EA Play or whatever.
Yeah. EA
Um,
Play,
yeah, we've
Ubisoft
seen
Plus, stuff like that.
Xbox allow that on their service, but when PlayStation won't like they have like the lower form of it, but they don't have the one where you could play their games day one on their platform for free. And we've seen
Right.
Xbox do that, and yeah. So, anyways, I'm kind of rambling here. I feel like the current state of Xbox is fine for consoles for Game Pass. But yeah, like I do think we'll get it the next Xbox. I think there will be one, and one is that 26 or 2026, 2027.
Yes.
But do they just go? Is it just exclusively digital at that point? Like we talked about, like we've been seeing all the reports about like basically all these places just not selling Xbox stuff anymore,
Yep.
Xbox games anymore, and especially like first party. Like I still think like you'll still see like I was about to say Call of Duty, but they own Call of Duty now. But like maybe we'll start like the big like Maddens and the big games will probably still have carry those. But yeah, like the next Halo or something probably won't come to like Walmart or Target,
No.
um, because there's no need to. But and man, I don't. The problem is right now, like I said, it's so hard to. It's so easy to go down like this trail of like just the worst case scenarios for gamers, because
Yes.
like I said, we're just waiting on information from them. And like I said, I feel like I'm kind of rambling here, but I don't think that this will be bad in the next 3 or 4 years. After that, or like by the end of this decade, really, I feel like it'll be maybe things will change a little bit, but I feel overall, um, it will stay the same. But I think it's all depending on how long that exclusivity window is. If we're talking a
Yes.
year, kind of like how we see PlayStation games come to PC, it's usually a year plus after the game has been out. Like if we're talking about that, I don't think like it's definitely like I'd be frustrated as maybe as a fan of like an Xbox fan, if you're someone that owns an Xbox not a PlayStation, but like so like you have an Xbox, like if you're a big fan of these games, like I'm gonna buy an Xbox so I can play these on Game Pass day one if I'm a huge fan of that game. Um, but if it's less, or if it's 3 months, if it's 6 months, if it's day and date, like these are things I don't know. I've been rambling here, Gables. What do you think about the how long it could be for exclusivity?
For exclusivity, let's see. It's just a case by case basis, really. I feel like for Starfield, if they're just going to wait until then the DLC, that's like by the end of the year for Starfield. I mean, it could be like, okay, what did Starfield release last June or something like that?
September.
Last September. So it could be like probably like 6 to 8 months or so after its release. That's what I'm kind of feeling. But for say Indiana Jones, we don't know. We don't know whether it's going to be like 6 months or a year or 2 months or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact the fact that we're having to talk about exclusivity for Xbox games on its Xbox systems before they go to somewhere else, that's it's still kind of a crazy thing for me to think about. But what I'm just thinking about really, it's like Xbox at one point is like, okay, you can play our games and stuff on our systems and stuff. This is where you go to get like say get Gears or get Halo or get Forza or whatsoever. And now it's like play it first on Xbox.
Mm.
It's like who cares about the exclusivity stuff? You're just gonna have to wait for something that you could just play the game on your system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, like if they come out and they say it's gonna be like everything will be exclusive for at least 12 months,
Yeah,
I feel like yeah it's definitely like I mean it sucks obviously, but I feel like if you're a big enough fan of these IPs and of Xbox, you'll buy the next Xbox and stuff like that and continue to buy them if they stick to that
right.
plan, and like yeah like. I'm gonna like when Gear 6 comes out and say it comes out on the PS6 or Xbox. I'm gonna buy an Xbox to play the next Gears game,
Well,
and
yeah,
then buy it when it comes out day and day on Xbox rather than uh, wait a year to go to PlayStation. Like I mean
especially if it goes on to Game Pass. It's like
yeah. On top of that, like yeah, like as long as that's the big thing of like as long I feel like as long as Game Pass stays the way like for me personally like I go where the games go. Like I'm not like a fanboy. I mean I was for a very long time. I was a Nintendo fanboy for first like 18 years of my life, and then I got a 360, and then I was like, oh shit, this is way better. And then like and then when the PlayStation 4 came out, that's still kind of my main platform. But I still bounce. I just like I said, I go where the games go. Um, but I forgot what we're talking about here. Oh, exclusivity. But
yes,
like as long as they kind of keep things the way they are, And then yeah, like they say, like they come out and they like strict guide. Like I feel like that's the thing they need to talk about, like timelines. Like Hi-Fi Rush has been out for over a year now.
Yes,
Like, and like I'm assuming it sounds like that's coming at any point in time. Like probably the next few weeks to like next month sometime. Like Q1
it could
this
even be a shadow drop. I mean, we
could
don't
be
know.
they could shadow drop it again. Yes, you're right, Gables. Um, and but I mean, if that's been a year plus, Pentiment's been out for over a year. We haven't heard.
Hmm.
Sea of Thieves has been out for several years. Like, as I think obviously it's gonna make a difference. Of like, I think Starfield's gonna be the first sign. I don't think if Shattered Space is later this year, like, and then that's gonna come out to put Xbox first, and then unless maybe they like the days Shattered Space comes out, it comes to PlayStation as well. But still gonna assume that's about a year. Like, I think that's gonna be the real tell. Um, and I feel like that's fine as long as they keep having these really great, like as long as we keep still seeing like the Wolongs, Persona 3s, a lot of really great indie games coming to Game Pass. I'm fine with that. I have seen some like
Right.
smaller indie teams come out and say like they're concerned about putting their games on Xbox if they just become a Game Pass machine, which is fair. That's a totally fair concern, and
Absolutely.
we've already been seeing this where a lot of like indie teams have not put their games out on Xbox because people don't buy games as often on there because they just play it for Game Pass, and
Yep.
people aren't willing to spend as
Absolutely.
much money on these consoles or on on after they buy the console. They're just like, I'm gonna just pay my $18 a month for Game Pass Ultimate, and I'm just gonna play what's on there, and then I'll buy
And
the games elsewhere on other platforms.
absolutely. When you go onto the Xbox Marketplace, it's the same thing, you know? I mean, you'll have your big indie games that are for sale, but yet you'll still see that there is a slew of indie games that are missing from that service that, indie developers, like you just stated, they don't want to put some of their games on the Xbox things because people predominantly use it as a Game Pass machine. That's the
Mm.
number one reason I feel people own an Xbox right now, other than playing other multi-platform games, like Call of Duty, like freaking Fortnite, like
Yeah,
whatever. But yeah, it from an indie developer's perspective, it's like you want to go to where the platform where they would definitely have the most buys, and right now it's between Steam and freaking Switch.
Switch and PlayStation. PlayStation still
Well,
does a big job
PlayStation,
of
yes.
those. Yeah, but like Xbox is definitely uh way last on that one. Um, so I mean, like, what was that game I played last year? That's the
That's the
Skybound
what?
people.
Skybound.
The people on the island, the kids on the island, the
Um.
sequel, Oxenfree 2. That was like
Oh yeah.
that was one of the first ones that came out. It's like it's just this is a studio owned by Netflix, and they came to everything except for Xbox. That was kind of the first time we started like people started asking that question. People started working backwards on that whole idea of like hey, like yeah, these other indie games aren't coming, and like a lot of times they don't like the majority of the games still come, but it's like these like bigger ones, like unless they have like a deal to come to Game Pass, it's like these bigger ones don't come to Xbox rather. So and
Right.
that was definitely very interesting and kind of like my eyebrows go up a little bit there. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. Okay, people, yeah, like, and I talked about before, like, I bought an Xbox Series S initially, shortly after launch,
Yes.
because I was like, I bought a Series S instead of an Xbox Series X, because I'm like, I'm just gonna play this. This is just my Game Pass machine. Like, I have a PS5. I'm gonna play all the big third-party stuff and the first-party stuff on there, and then
Yeah.
all the first-party and what Game Pass games are on this. And eventually, I updated to an X because I want to play Hellblade 2 as beautiful as possible. So, yeah, I don't know, but kind of jumping off from there. Let's get into. I mean, I mean, what does this mean for PlayStation? And do you think this is a good or bad thing for gamers?
I think this is a bad thing for gamers first and foremost because if Xbox is out, if say Microsoft and Xbox are out of that sort of like that console sort of thing and stuff, where's the competition that PlayStation is going to be going through, and like competing with here?
Yeah,
Meaning that potentially this could be a good thing for PlayStation because, well, think about it for a second here. Over the past 10 or so, no, at least over the past 20 years now, both Microsoft and Sony have been battling each other in terms of competitive prices for their consoles, for their games and stuff like that. I mean, what's to say? I know my little dog's with me here. What's to say them increasing the cost of their console, their next console, or like their game prices? Because say if Game Pass continues on what it's doing right now for like Xbox and stuff, and let's just say that something doesn't work out and doesn't stay around and stuff. Well, now Sony has the monopoly upon the entire market space in terms of that stuff, and now they can charge whatever they want for it. But
yeah.
competition is part of the reason why game costs have kind of been that were stabilized for such a long time up until the recent years here, where not only console prices but game prices have been increasing substantially because of a mixture of that and development costs.
But yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of what I mean. The standard price is $10. They do have other
Yes,
ways they've tried. They have like $100 digital edition, and you get it
yes,
3 days early if you pay $100 for it. So, but yeah, like
right.
we're talking, this got $20 in 20 years, a little under 20 years. I'm like, yeah, like we are incredibly lucky, and people always point out, look, an Atari cost $400 in the 80s, and or $300 in the 80s, and now now you can get a PS5 or an Xbox for $500. Like, um, you're right, and
But
like, go ahead.
like I was saying, man, it's like it can be a good thing for consumers as well because when you have games, it's just the excitement of having games that you probably never even decided to go into the Xbox platform because the PlayStation may have been your console of choice, you know. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're doing like Starfield or like Gears or whatsoever come onto the PlayStation, that's even more incentive if you would to go and buy into that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's kind of like, um, like like if you're a sports fan and like say you hate like Tom Brady or LeBron James, and it's like if you're like a PlayStation fanboy or something, and it's like cool. It's like you hate these people, but then like what happens if like all of a sudden they're playing on your team? All of a sudden you got like you've been ripping on Xbox and Halo for 20 years. All of a sudden now you got Halo on your console. Like what? I don't know. It's like how do you feel about that? So yeah, I agree. I think short term, yeah, like you can make that it's great for consumers because now like there's a lot of people out there that say that exclusivity shouldn't exist and it's bad for the industry.
Mm,
And I can understand your argument in like a non-capitalist world. I would agree with you. But in a capitalist world where where these companies are going to try to get squeeze every dime out of you as they possibly can, the like you said, like Xbox and PlayStation being there, like it's good for each other. It's good for game. If you're a PlayStation, whether what
yes.
side you're on, they are good for the industry because yeah, like they are going to they have to keep their prices at a competitive standpoint. So yeah, like if we've seen it already when like the PS3 came out, it's $600. Well, you can buy an Xbox and a 360 and a Wii. The Wii 60 was always a joke. You can buy those for $600 combined and get both consoles. That
Yep,
was always a joke.
absolutely.
And then we've seen Xbox One come out, and they were arrogant, and it was $100 more, and you had to buy the Connect with it, and that nobody wanted. And PlayStation 4 is like, cool, ours is $400, and like, what does that mean for the future of like, buying games physically? Like, they can like, all right,
Mm,
cool, PlayStation 6 is now digital only. Like that's
yep,
bad. Like people rip on GameStop, but like I'd argue like that's good for consumers because like you can rip on the prices that you get from GameStop and store credit, and I understand that. That's a whole different argument. But it's still good to have that ability to trade in games to then buy other games. Like I've talked about over and over again. Like yeah, I have my issues with GameStop, but I recognize that I can't buy a lot of the games that I play without GameStop being around. Like that's how it affords me the ability to play as many games as I do, and Game Pass as well. So yeah, like I said, short term it's great if you're a consumer, but yeah, like what you said, like the PS6 comes out and all of a sudden I don't think the hardware is going to go away at least in the next decade from Xbox, but like
hmm
if that gap continues to grow, or like all right, say it's like well I think PS4 to Xbox One we kind of figured out it was like 2 to 1. Like the PlayStation 4 still sold twice as many as Xbox Ones. If that grows to 4 to 5 to 1,
right.
that's not good. Like and it's like it's so like you think about like I mean you look at cool. Like well maybe someone will come in and like create their next console and jump into the gaming space. We've already seen Amazon kind of like half-ass deal with Luna. We've seen Google's struck out several times. Apple doesn't really like care to get into it. Um, like you look at every time a new console's got out there and been successful, it's because of they one of two things happen. They 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 capitalized on a moment, or they had this killer game that came out right away. You look
Yes.
at like Sega had Sonic, and then also Nintendo. People were pissed off at Nintendo over the cartridge shit. Because
hmm
they were controlling the market. You had to pay obscene amount of money to put your games on our platform. You controlled how
Yep.
many you put on the platform. Sega came out also had Sonic, and then hey, you guys can just do whatever you want, and it's way cheaper. And then and then also Nintendo was very much more control. Like more Kombat had blood on Sega, but not on Nintendo, stuff like that. Um, and then you look at like the PlayStation got in. Also, they had great games, and then same thing. People were pissed off at Nintendo for sticking with the cartridge with the 64. And
Yep.
we've seen like Final Fantasy and all these, like they had Tekken, they had Final Fantasy right off the bat, boom, ready to go. Gran Turismo, so blah blah blah. Xbox comes in, you have Microsoft behind them. You had the billions of dollars from these companies to jump into it, and they had Halo right off the bat.
Yes.
You can argue the first Xbox, didn't have a lot much more than that, but they had Halo and like they had multiplayer gaming. That was the first console to really like focus on that. Um, and we've seen like Microsoft like kind of half-ass get into it with the or not Microsoft, Google with Stadia, and like they
Yes.
kind of launched with this like a pretty like the technology was pretty good, but it was probably too early and they didn't have a reason to play it and pay for it. Like the games that were coming on there were full priced and they were several-year-old games. They didn't have their own games really to play on there. Like they opened these studios that weren't even years away from putting out their own games. And then what we've seen like Amazon Luna just kind of just be, I guess. Um,
Right. I will say this though, in terms of it just continues on in terms of like Xbox and stuff. It's like, why do people go and buy an Xbox to begin with, or want to invest in the brand to begin with? Other than, like, say, with Game Pass and stuff, they go with like the exclusive stuff,
mm,
obviously, like Gears, Halo, Forza, and stuff. And a bunch of the patterns that Microsoft been doing the past couple of years made you very excited as a fan of Xbox, because, oh wow, all these properties now are going to be first party exclusive stuff, bearing like the more obvious ones, that like Call of Duty and stuff being on PlayStation, and like Steam and this and that and stuff. We were left to believe that these were going to be a lot of first party exclusive stuff that we're going to see over the past next couple of years and stuff. And then, once we finally get a cusp of like seeing the fruits of what their deals are starting to present to them, it's like a total like shift reversal and stuff. But what ultimately leads me to the question is like, how is like is this going to devalue Xbox though as a brand? And if so, I mean, is this going to be like, is it going to be like is it going to like be like a substantial like devalue? Is it going to rise
yeah,
if this happens?
I think as long as they continue to put out good quality, like as if they can keep this momentum, obviously there's gonna be down years. Maybe like maybe don't have the big games all the time. Like you can't count on like they said they want to have that one game a quarter every
Yeah.
year. Obviously there's gonna be quarters. It might be a year where they just don't have that, or like maybe some of those get like it. But I guess like looking at it if you're an Xbox fan, this probably right now how you're feeling is like I imagine like if you're like say you're a sport, like say you live in St. Louis and we flash back like 7-8 years here. For the last 15 years, you live in St. Louis, you're a huge Rams fan. If for the last 15 years after Kurt Warner left, like you've been middling to horrendous, and then they go to L.A. and immediately are great, and they're in the playoffs every year. They win the fucking Super Bowl just a few years later. It's like that's probably how almost like you rooted for this team for 15 years and they were just bad, and then they finally
Mm-hmm.
got good and they left. And
Yep.
now obviously maybe it's that 1-to-1 but analogy there, but like it's kind of probably how you're feeling. And I'm not, I don't know, like I feel for you guys. I feel for them on that. I do. Um, I had a point and I lost the point. There's just like a million things going through my brain right now. I apologize, but go ahead, Gables.
But it's like, you spend so many years you spend so many years as a fan of like a platform, because of the games they put out, and I totally feel with longtime Xbox fans in regards to this, because it's like, if something of this sort happened to, say, like PlayStation or Nintendo, this would make me absolutely furious, because especially if I bought like a console or something the past 6 months to a year, which yeah, I kind of did, didn't I?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it would make me furious, because now I could have instead just saved my money and get the the damn games on like the PlayStation 5 or on
yeah,
Steam or on Nintendo Switch, without having to invest like another 500 some odd dollars for this platform. But not only am I kind of angry with that, it doesn't give me a realm of confidence to invest into anything like digital in terms of game stuff on their service, because I'm not sure how long this service stuff they're going to be keeping up with, like in terms with Game Pass or with their digital storefront and stuff. If they go completely third party, it's like, these questions obviously have to be answered by Microsoft, by either Phil Spencer or whomever's in charge, to where they tell the consumers, they let them know, hey, this is what our plan is for this. This is our business decisions of why we came to this. Hey, if you're, like, say, still on our platforms or something for another 5 or 10 years, like yeah, you may access your content or something like that that you bought on the storefronts and stuff, because this is a very real thing to where now your consumers think, okay, well, shit, now I got to go onto another platform because you're going to possibly do something completely stupid to where now I can't even access the stuff I've done, like I've bought maybe like 10 years ago or 15 years ago or something. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot there's just a lot of like unanswered questions. There's definitely a lot of anger, a lot of concern from not just Xbox fans, but everyone else in the games industry, because with someone as big as Microsoft, like completely just saying with the first party stuff with Xbox, hey, we're going to be putting on rivals systems. We want to make bank for PlayStation, for Xbox, for like Nintendo releases and stuff. And quintessentially, that's kind of like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. I like I said, man, we're just in this. We're all in the stage of panic right now because it's just
yeah,
the silence is just making us all go crazy. I think as gamers, and like I said, I'm not in like a like I've always said, I go where the games go. Like I would be bummed because I like Game Pass and I think it's a great service, and I don't, and like I said, I think it's just like go away from the business side of things. Like what does this mean for the future? But like, as I am, yeah, like that $200 a year or so, give or take, that I spend on Game Pass is well worth it to me, and I don't want that service to go away, um, or at least like change in a drastic way. Um, and yeah, like I said, I feel bad for those Xbox fans out there that, like, yeah, you supported this platform for a long time, and I think it's maybe ridiculous to maybe if you go a little too crazy with it, but you could be have a I've always, there's things that like I'm like, oh, okay, I'm more a fan than this and that. I have preferences like everybody else, but like I'm never one to like, like Kojima is like I'm a huge fanboy of him, but you can openly talk about how much I don't like Death Stranding. Like there are levels to this shit. You could be a fan, you can be a little blind to things sometimes because you're fanhood. Like someone says something negative about Jordan Love, I'm gonna, that's gonna irk me a little bit. I get it. So, um, but yeah, like there's just like I think there's got to be some like levels of understanding. I think like Creed said, you're 6 feet from the edge, but maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. I think a lot of people are at that stage right now. And I can't believe this. Is this the first time we quoted Creed in 11 years?
yes.
But Jesus, it's been let's not go another 11 years. There's so many quotable songs. But I feel like there, there's I'm not saying we should go like nuclear level on this shit. And I don't know. We were talking about, we're wrestling fans, Gables and I,
Yes.
and we were talking about like everything going on with, like Cody Rhodes, about he was going to main event. They've been building this story for 2 years. He's gonna win the title that his dad never won at WrestleMania, and then the behind the scene bullshit happened. Rock took his place and is taking his spot in the main event of WrestleMania. The story they've been building for 2 years, just threw it away for this one moment. Um, and I said, we were talking about, and I'm like, Cody's gonna come out on Raw now tonight, and like he can salvage this whole storyline with just an awesome promo tonight. And I feel like if Phil Spencer can come out, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, whoever, if they just have a great, like, they need to fucking nail this message and and not just like nail the message, but also have a detailed plan, a detailed, like, hey, if this is everything we're hearing is actually comes true, um, including Gears, Halo, all that shit, everything's on the table. Like they need to have a like concise plan and not just say we are still dedicated to the Xbox hardware and just the word salad messages that we see all the time. There are 1,000 words that ultimately say nothing. Like he needs to come out and he needs to they need to nail this whatever they say. And like I said, like everything, like, yeah, Gears is coming. Gear 6 will be on PlayStation, but it's going to be at least a year before it comes. Like we need to have deadlines. We need to have time, not just like case by case basis, or like if it is like, say if it's just Hi-Fi Rush, like, yeah, Pentiment, these type of games are coming, or like these games that like he said years ago, like games that don't have that have already, you've seen a lot already on previous consoles. will continue to come. Like we see like Minecraft, shit like that, like Call of Duty, all these games that have, audiences already on other consoles, they stay there. Elder Scrolls, shit like online stuff like like that. Like, but I feel like the next 10 days, give or take, will be very important um, to the future of Xbox and gaming.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I did not think we were gonna go 50 minutes on this, Gables. I thought this might be 30. Um, but yeah, I mean, this might be. Uh, is this like one of the biggest days? And we've been doing this close to 11 years. Is this
Yes.
this is definitely
I,
top five, right?
this is definitely top five. I mean, come on, let's think of it this way. I mean, the Activision Blizzard stuff that was going on with like Microsoft and stuff acquiring them. I mean, there's other stuff that has happened that have been like just crazy that we have
Yeah.
reported upon and stuff. But I feel like this is probably the biggest moment that we've had to do in the span of the past 10 or 11 years that we've been recording, Tyler. Because when we started recording, it was just around that E3 time from back
Our first
then. And
episode
yeah,
was E3, yeah,
it was E3. And
2013.
then fast forward, we're now reporting upon Xbox going third party.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like when our first episodes was talking about that Xbox One uh, press conference where it was the TV, sports,
Hmm.
sports, sports thing, connect, and it's like we've been waiting for them to turn around for since then, and here we are still waiting for them to turn it around, and
Hmm.
finally felt like we were there, and yeah, I don't know. Ryan McCaffrey, I thought, said it best on Twitter, where it just feels
Yeah.
like he said that if you're an Xbox fan, it's like it feels like Xbox just keeps like, all right. So last year we had that awesome developer direct. Hi-Fi Rush comes out and it's awesome
Yep.
and blows everybody away. 2 months later, Redfall comes out, and it's just
Yep.
like, all right, cool. You're running. We're like I said, you're building the momentum. You're running. You're getting faster. You're getting faster. Bam, step on a rake. You know. And then just a few weeks ago, we had that awesome developer direct where they showed all these games and everything looks great. And then bam, here we are, fucking this. And yeah, I think he summed it up perfectly. If like it's just they just keep stepping on rakes, but they're the ones like that put the rake down in the first place.
Yep.
It's that sideshow Bob meme from our gift
The
from
Simpsons.
fucking The Simpsons, where he's just like on a lawn full of rakes and he keeps walking into them. And I feel like that's what's going on right now. So they have a chance to pick up some of these rakes, Gables, and continue
Oh
to
yeah.
gain that momentum. And um, it's just all about what's going to happen the next 10 days. But is there anything else we need to talk about before we get out of here, Gables? Did you buy Suicide Squad?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I thought I should ask.
But if there's anything else that we did talk about, I mean, no, not at this moment in time, Tyler. But at the same point, dear listeners, I would like to say thank you for listening in on us and stuff. If there is anything more substantial Xbox related and stuff, we'll make sure to at least give you a little bit of a heads up and stuff. Like if it's something major, I mean, yeah, we probably will put out something.
Yeah.
But yet, if it's just like little bits here and there, just expect us probably the next time we record or some just to say little bits about it and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we're both of us are full time job dudes. I
Yes.
know I know Tyler here's on vacation and stuff like
Yeah.
that,
I'm
but
on vacation this week and I'm doing more work than ever before for this
oh, I
podcast.
know, right? It's just hilarious. I mean, but yeah, we want to give a big thank you out to the listeners and the watchers and stuff for like our YouTube stuff, our freaking like Spotify stuff, our freaking like iTunes stuff. Because without you, I mean, Tyler and I, we wouldn't be doing it as much as we would be doing and stuff. I mean, we would be recording some on some realms and stuff like that, but yet we do thank we do thank you for going through just watching the content, listening to shows and stuff, and yeah, our breaking news stuff. I mean, like I was saying to Tyler beforehand, this is like the first time in like 10 or 11 years or something like that since we started recording to where there's something major in the gaming space that is now occurring, now shifting almost to the same, maybe not as quite as the equivalent of Sega going third party, but yet it's huge.
Yeah.
It has lasting ramifications. So, from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of Tyler's, obviously, it's like, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for doing stuff. And you know what? I hope you watch some more.
Yeah. Like, follow, subscribe. Go to if you're listening to us or watching us somewhere else, 5-star reviews, leave comments, tell your friends, shares with everybody. We're really pushing that YouTube stuff. So if you can hit that subscribe button and hit that likes button. That will really help us out. Makes more people see us in the algorithm. We gotta trick that algorithm. So we appreciate if you did that for us. And I don't know. Maybe you already. If by the time you listen to this, maybe it's already happening. Who knows? But I will be doing a live react to the State of Play. Gables, it's at 3:30. I'm assuming you're at work, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be at work, so it's
Okay.
probably gonna
All
be
right.
just you, man.
All right. And then if there's that rumored Nintendo Direct that might be happening on Thursday, I'll do a live react to that one too. So just stay tuned. There's gonna probably be a lot going on this week on this. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, whatever, any podcast service, check us on YouTube. There's gonna be a lot of content coming out. I clipped out my Suicide Squad review so far and put it on the YouTube channel this week. So if you want to check that out, we really appreciate it if you did all for that. But yeah, like Gable said, we appreciate everything you guys do for us. We do this because we love it, and we do it because people
Mm-hmm.
listen. So thank you guys. We'll be back shortly. We'll be back with a normal episode, unless more shit happens, like Gable said. We'll be
Yep.
back with a normal episode Saturday night. They'll be going up Sunday morning. But yeah, and thank you guys once again for listening. I was host. I was Tyler.
And I've been Colonel Gables. So until next time, everyone, thank you for listening to another fun-filled episode of the Drunk-Nerds podcast.
Hey, Gables.
What?
What the fuck's happening, man? I don't know. It's fucking wild.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I heard that Garfield fucking hates Mondays, but man, this feels like a pretty good Monday.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Maybe Garfield just actually hates Xbox. That's why he hates, or maybe he loves Xbox, and that's why he hates Mondays.
Hashtag Garfield killed Xbox.
Oh my God, what if he did? That's gonna be the thumbnail. Bye, guys.
See ya.